And the challenge of the mind is that the pleasures of the senses feel quite gratifying. And not only are they gratifying, they give us instant gratification. And somehow the idea of divine union and merging with the oneness seems like the satisfaction is somewhere far away. It seems to delay the reward. So why is your mind going to go after something which feels really far away, when in reality it says, well, the world is giving me instant pleasures right now. My body, my mind is giving me instant pleasures right now. Why would I want to give that up? And this is where we haven't understood what the Guru is offering. What we've done is we like to think of Gurmat as a religion, where we have to follow some rules, and we do them in the hope that there is some reward either at the end of this life or in some sort of afterlife. But what the Guru has always offered right from the beginning, at each step of the way, is instant happiness, instant contentment and bliss. But our way of thinking and understanding Gurmat has not allowed us to experience it in that way. So what we do is we haven't really trusted the Guru's method because we haven't understood what the Guru is trying to say. And although we pay a little bit of lip service to the Guru, in reality we've followed our own path. We've taken bits of the Guru that we understand, and the bits that we don't understand, we've rejected it. We've followed our own path all this time. But what we haven't realized is our path constantly leads us to one destination, which is suffering. No matter where we go in our own personal journey, in our own method of pursuing happiness, we've always come towards suffering. So our way of thinking, manmat rather than gurmat, has left us vulnerable and totally exposed. And it leaves us completely incapable of dealing with suffering, and suffering comes from not knowing how to deal with the uncertainty of life. We think life is going to go a certain way, and life always has a way of doing something else, and we don't have a way of dealing with that. Our minds and our way of thinking hasn't come up with a solution towards that. Now the question you have to ask yourself is, do you really want a way out of that? Or are you actually happy within this prison of ego? Have you made yourself quite comfortable here that actually you don't need to go anywhere? If you're ready to break this cycle, then this pleasure and self-identification method needs to be broken. Now the question is, there are so many pleasures, where do we begin? There are only 5 senses, but the pleasures of those 5 senses are never-ending. You know, every time we have an election, you hear all the political parties come up with new policies, new pledges, and what do? They write themselves a manifesto. And what that manifesto is a promise to the people that this is what we're going to commit to. So in this final verse, it's now time for you to write your own personal manifesto. What pleasures are you indulging your 5 senses in? What sights, what sounds, what smells, what tastes, what physical sensations have you fallen in love with? And are there any other negative behaviors, any vices that you want to be free from? Remember, we're writing about spiritual barriers and spiritual improvement. So we don't want to write down anything about material success. not about getting a new job or starting new hobbies, improving your diet or getting more money in life. Spend some time today to write down what are going to be your pledges, your policies, your promises to fix the things that you already know need to be fixed within yourself. And this is the perception that we've created within ourselves. You've convinced yourself that you're right to act in the way that you already do. Like you deserve all these pleasures, that you're okay with all of the vices that you live with. This is the self-perception that we've created. And how do we explain that? Well, this is who I am. This is who I am. And I'm okay with it. So all this time, you've been following your own path. You've not been following the Guru's path. And the Guru is here to show us that we have to adopt the Guru's method in order to succeed. Our methods have failed. So now that you have a list, now that you know what needs to be improved, wouldn't it be great to have all those problems resolved right away? Wouldn't it be great to have all the barriers in your life lifted? The Guru goes on to say, Jat pahara tiraj sunyar. The word tiraj means patience or persistence. And Guru says that the sunyar, the goldsmith, is patience. If self-restraint is the workshop, then patience is the goldsmith. He's the worker, the one running things. What's the role of a goldsmith? What does a goldsmith do? It takes raw gold, raw materials, melts them down, purifies them, removes the impurities, and then reshapes the gold, molds it into something valuable, into coins or jewelry. And remember, we're also talking about a similar process, about purifying and molding your mind. And this is going to take time, and it's going to take perseverance. So this tiraj, this perseverance, is the manager of the whole process. And what that means is, regardless of whatever circumstances happens in your life, regardless of any events of happiness or sorrow, you have to be steadfast in your pursuit of spiritual progression in your life. Don't let obstacles derail you. Tiraj means to carry on regardless, with patience, and not that at the first sign of trouble you go back to your old way of living. It means to be unaffected by pain or pleasure, by the ups and downs of life. So tiraj can be extended to mean having an impartiality towards life, being dispassionate towards life. So this impartiality towards the circumstances in your life is the manager. It manages the whole process of cultivating a life of universal realization. So if you look at your list, rather than thinking about all of the problems that you might want to be fixing, rather than feeling as though you're a long way away from your goal, look at your list and just pick one thing that you're going to start working on today. Every time you make a change in your life, it's going to empower you to make the next change. This is what that patience means. You don't get disheartened by looking at your list. You pick something and you start working on that. You empower yourself because for the first time you're actually writing it down and saying, I need to do this. And when you make a change, you'll see that you will feel more empowered to make further changes to improve your life and to refine your mind further. Guruji goes on to say, Ehran mat Ved Hathyar. Ehran is anvil. And Guru is saying, an anvil-like intellect. Ehran mat Ved Hathyar. An anvil-like intellect, knowledge, the hammer. So an anvil is a heavy block of iron which hot metals are placed on and are hammered on. So Guru is saying, let your thinking become an anvil upon which the hammer of divine wisdom can be beaten on. So here the Guru's words are beginning to sound quite drastic. To let knowledge be beaten and drummed into your mind. But the reality is that your psychological state is not your own. The way of living that you've chosen, the way of thinking that you've adopted isn't actually your own. We've relied quite heavily on our upbringing and conditioning by society. So society has actually formed most of our own opinions. So our intellect has been conditioned. And still, because the voice in our head sounds like us, we like to think that those thoughts are our own. And when we talk about discarding our own thoughts and adopting something new, then people start getting quite scared. People think that religion is going to brainwash us into some sort of cult-like mentality. And while there are examples of that in the world, this is not what the Guru is trying to do with us. The Guru identifies that our current state of thinking hasn't helped us. So what the Guru is offering is a more refined philosophy of living. One that better understands the human condition and one that better understands the mind. In the 6th Pauri, Guru Nanak Dev Ji revealed Mat vich ratan jawahar manak. Within the intellect are gems, jewels and rubies. But how do we find those? The Guru in that same line goes on to say, Je ik gur ki sikh suni. If you listen to the teachings of the Guru, if the lessons of the Guru are heard and applied, then the jewel-like experience of the mind will manifest itself. And here the Guru is saying something very similar. Ehran mat Ved Hathyar. You'll notice the word Ved has an onkar underneath it, which means the word Ved is singular. So here the word Ved just means spiritual knowledge, divine understanding, the supreme final message of spiritual wisdom. It doesn't mean the Vedas, it means knowledge. So Ehran mat, make your mind the anvil upon which the knowledge can be hammered on. So how do we utilize the Guru's teachings? How do we reveal the jewel of the mind? How do we listen? Je ek gur ki sikh suni. How do we apply the Guru's message? We apply it by making our mind receptive. Ehran mat. What does an anvil do? How do we make our mind like an anvil? If you think about an ironmonger, a metal worker, hammering, molding, shaping metal on the anvil throughout the process stays stable. It doesn't waver, it doesn't move. It just stays there and it takes all the beatings. And in the same way, our mind should not move when being hit by the wisdom of the Guru. It has to remain stable and steadfast and continually serve and allow itself to be receptive to this wisdom.